Hello, and you're very welcome to another edition of the WRP. We have a huge show for you, a golden show, a gold-leafed show for you. Not only do we have our own Rachael Burf talking about lifting the trophy at the weekend, we've got Karen Findlay in her last game involved with Harlequins. And if that wasn't enough, we've got Brian O'Driscoll. It's Brian O'Driscoll for the men's view of the women's game and how men's players and former players can promote the women's game. All coming up on the Women's Rugby Pod. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, a very warm welcome to another Women's Rugby Pod and a very, very special edition this week, of course, because it's not every week that the co-host, the pod wife, is not only a champion, but a champion-winning captain. Rachael Burford, what cloud are we on right now?
Oh, still on cloud nine. This is the first time I've really had a chance to talk about it, so I'm pretty excited about that, yeah.
Oh, yeah, winners. They do say winners are grinners. And for our listeners of the pod, rather than our viewers on YouTube, there is a big, big smile adorning Rachel's face. There's a smashing photograph of you. I think it's from you guys at Harlequins Women, of this look in you looking at the cup, and you properly meant that, didn't you?
Yeah, you're gonna make me a bit emotional now. Obviously it's been such a tough year, but the last sort of 2 seasons where we came up short and we just didn't give the best look of us. And I think just knowing that we did that at the weekend, we really showcased who we were as a team. Was so proud, like genuinely so proud. I just remember like looking at it thinking, we did it. We actually did it. Yeah,
100%. Just take us through, that beginning. If you haven't heard, you've been under a rock with women's rugby at the moment. 25-17 Harlequins beat Saracens at Kingsholm on Sunday. It was a picture-perfect day. The sun was out, blue skies. There were crowds in, and proper vociferous crowds as well. There's one Sarries guy giving it large. It's quite funny in the stands. But just take us through, just very, very quickly, the build up to the game. I was around. I thought you were incredibly relaxed. You're getting off the coach, warming up. There's lots and lots of smiles. Is that really, really important? Something that you wanted to just make sure that everybody was nice and cool and calm?
Yeah, I think, look, there was a real conscious effort to just not play the occasion and just think it's another game, it's another opportunity. Because I think you can get lost so much in, all the things are going on. Obviously, BT Sport were there, so there's a lot more cameras, a lot more different angles on things and interviews. And we just kind of really stayed focused on individually what we needed to do, collectively as units and as a team. And I think that and we were so confident in our prep and what we had done that we knew that if we could deliver what we wanted to deliver, the result will take care of itself. And I think everybody kind of had that thought and feeling. The bus journey up there was really relaxed, really fun. Sarah Beckett was literally like, I feel like I'm on a day trip out, girls. Like, she was just absolutely buzzing. And I think, moments like that really help then to spread throughout the whole team. Someone like Sarah Beckett, who's a big game player, if she's really relaxed, then the likes of Katie Mew and Lauren Brooks then also get relaxed about it. So yeah, it was a really, really good approach to the final. We were relaxed, calm, focused. And it was actually on our team run night. We did it at the Stoop on the Thursday, and it was quite tense. And there was like a trick shot that happened. Like somebody managed to like flick the ball by accident. It like went through someone's hand and then on the back of someone's boot, and then they regathered it, and we all kind of like cheered and was like, way. And that was the only moment we really smiled. And I remember saying at the end, just being like, let's remember to enjoy this. Like, it's been a hard year. Like, let's make sure we enjoy what we do. And whatever the result is, at least we actually had a smile on our face. And I think we brought that to life come the final.
I mean, I guess it's probably a silly question because you want to win a thing, especially having fallen short the last 2 years. But was it more, and it is possibly a question for Karen and Gerard, and we will ask Karen, who's coming on the pod later on, just how happy were you to play the game that you wanted to play? I mean, that first half was probably up there with some of the best rugby, taking into consideration opposition that I've possibly seen the last 3-4 years. Or was it just purely you would have taken a 6-3?
No, like we had the messages all week from Gerard and Karen, like to be brave and to go and play. They said, if you're going to turn up and just try and stop Saracens playing and try and defend them, and, we might get an opportunity here or there, then we're probably going to come off the wrong end of the result. And so the big messaging was around, let's be brave. Let's go and give them a go. If we see the opportunity, let's just take it. Don't feel we've got to go, kick to corner, then look at our driving ball. If it's on, it's on. And I think giving us that confidence to do that, it allowed us to go out there and perform the way we did. But if we had lost, at least we went and played the Quins way and how we wanted to play, and we could walk away with our heads held high going, do you know what, we played how we wanted to try and play and it didn't work, but at least we stood to what we believe in. But ultimately, we came out on the right side, and that first half we just absolutely blew it away.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big one, as you know, for the psychology of rugby, and I know you games aren't won and lost with that first kickoff, but for me that was huge. The reigning champions, ball goes out in the full. It just set the tone, and then there was a few more little mistakes. Was it the same for you out there?
But we actually had a conversation on the bus up going, do you know what, because obviously we know our pack is so dominant, and look, Saracens also have a dominant pack, but we feel that, in scrum time we would edge it, and we were like, oh, we're not going to have that many. We were like, why don't we kick the kickoff short? And then we always and then that literally happened in the first play. It was like, and it's just like moments like that you thought, it's on, it's our time. And there was, no matter what was put in front of us, there was no way we weren't going to win that game. And I think right from that off, that was how it felt. Yeah. From that kickoff, even from like my charge down, and it just felt like we were on top, pressure. 5 minutes later, I know I go down, but then we win a penalty 2 minutes or 2 seconds later on the back of that. It just, all the momentum was going in the right direction that we wanted it to. And I think it set that tone from the kickoff. And it was almost like our forwards like, right, get in, we get a scrum now. And that set their tone.
Yeah, absolutely. Just take us through that moment then when you get smashed and you immediately it's pretty serious.
Yeah. So I stepped inside on my left leg, and then I looked to move it to Scotty, because again, it was a moment where we knew that they would shorten up, and we had an opportunity to just run out of our 22, which you could look at. I talk about playing brave. Normally you'd look, set up, we'll kick, get out of this area. So again, we just kept setting that tone. But yeah, I kind of got hit from the side, and my foot must have stayed in the ground. And I just felt like my knee, for anybody who hasn't had an injury, that's great. But when you do, it's almost like, like bubble wrap, you can feel the pop in and the little tear in. And I just grabbed my kneecap and was like, what is going on? And then, thought, okay, it doesn't feel too bad now. So they tried strapping it up, but I think the strapping made it worse. So I got up and they were like, are you going to try and carry on? I was like, I'll try. Of course I will. And they say, so strapped it up. And I was like, what have we got? And they said, oh, it's a penalty. And I was like, right, okay, just get Izzy ready. By the time I get to that line out, I'm probably going to have to come off. So then when I tried to put some weight through it, it just wasn't having it. So yeah, like massive heartbreak for me personally. And yeah, it was really hard because it's been a really hard season, lots of ups and downs. I also had an injury earlier on in the season. And so to come off so early was really heartbreaking personally, but I kind of had a choice to either sit there and feel sorry for myself, or to be number one cheerleader and keep driving the belief and getting our bench going. And yeah, I was obviously very, very gutted, but I thought, right, I need to curb that until post game, and then I deal with my own personal emotions.
Ever the captain speaks. Yeah, it certainly was a moment that even Sean Redder to hear text and went, oh, They might have trouble now because we said it before, and I say it again. Your leadership in the semi-final was exceptional and there for all to see. So was it? You said earlier that you just never felt at any moment that you're going to lose that game when you sat there on the sidelines thinking, "Oh, I'm not going to take part in this." And now that's another sort of youngster on the field and an experience. Did your belief ever waver?
Genuinely, it didn't. I remember.
Really?
Yeah, honestly, I remember just before I was taken off, I remember turning around and being like, let's go. Like, this doesn't change anything because the players that we have, and even you talk about like an Izzy Mayhew, she's played so much this season and she's come on so much defensively and in attack. And I just feel like we had the right mixture. Like, we had so many senior players and experienced players out there without me that I wasn't going to be the difference. And I just think that, collectively was what the performance was always about. And I didn't honestly, even when we went down to 13 players, I thought the Sarries aren't going to be able to get back in. I mean, the amount of turnovers we made when they had a 2-player overlap was unreal. And I think every time that moment happened, it was like, that's another chance for us. That's another chance for us. And yeah, I just had this complete belief that we were going to do it. And you know what? The other thing is, I didn't even entertain it or let it come in that we weren't going to. I think that is where my belief was so strong that it was like, we are going to do this. We are. And that's just all I thought. It wasn't, they might come back in, or we've been here before. And even like at half time, like the message was, do not stop playing. Right. Because how often do you see teams that go in, they're playing really well. We've done it before and then thought, we'll sit back now. We'll absorb it. We'll just play in the right areas. And it was like, no, let's go and play.
And even down to 13. They get back within 5 then, weren't they?
No, because they hadn't scored just.
Yet.
Well, I remember seeing Amy come off, and I just turned away, so I didn't actually see what she had done. Bless her, she was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." I was like, "It's fine, don't worry about it." And then 2 seconds later, literally, Abby's coming off. I'm like, "Okay, right, this is going to be a taste," because it was 14 minutes left, and I looked up, and all I remember saying to her, I was like, "It's fine." I said to Amy, "It's fine. You're going to have 4 minutes before you go on to make an impact to finish the game out." And the pair of them, they were terrible. I was like, guys, I've had to sit here for the whole game, so you can chill out. They were getting right on the edge of their seat. And I was like, calm down. But no, even then, honestly, Johnny, I didn't think, I genuinely didn't.
Really?
I thought we're going to hold out, or the way we were playing with ball in hand as well, without 2 players on the pitch, there was just a will that we were not going to allow Saracens to beat us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right early on, it was like the first line out we got to, and we went to the corner. I remember saying to Abby, being like, they are quiet. We've got to keep them quiet and not let them have that belief back. Like when Packer got that second try and how she ran back and was like rallying everybody up. Like when they get that head of steam and when everybody gets behind them like that, they are a difficult side to kind of break down mentally. But they were so quiet in that initial, and I was like, we've got to keep them quiet. We've got to keep this on. And I think, some of their big players, you didn't see that from them like you usually do.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I want to talk loads and loads and loads. As we said a little bit earlier, we got Karen Findlay coming on the pod. Her final game in charge, and a very, very emotional occasion for her, and an emotional week. I want to talk to you more and more because, again, that psychology and you and Saracens and the niggle. But I spoke to a couple of the Saracens players after the game, and I said, "You out Saracens." For me, mentally and physically, you refused to take a backward step. And if anything, the chest were pushing out and the jaw was pushing out. And, Leanne Riley very much sort of epitomised that, just fiery right on the edge. How tasty was it when you were out there?
Yeah, it was just game on. It was like, we couldn't wait to play them. Obviously, we missed out on our fixture in January. And then the time before we actually played them, like there was a lot of players who were missing in that game as well. And I think we were just really excited about the opportunity to play against them. We know that they're a great side and we want to play them. And so that physicality and that competitiveness comes out from everybody. Any time that any Sarries player that takes the pitch, any Quins player that takes the pitch, it's not personal, but it's just, it's that pride and that bragging rights, isn't it, that they've had over us for so long, that we just couldn't even entertain going for another year of that. But yeah, it's very much alive and kicking, and I know it'll be there again next season.
Yeah, absolutely, and they will want their crown back. No, I want to get into a bit more of the tactics and the detail with Karen later on, and possibly even pick out some individual. I thought line out was exceptional, which is under a huge amount of pressure. Front row of Fab. Leanne Riley had one of her best games I've seen in the quarters. I just name a Quins player that had a bad game. Yeah. No, absolutely. And
I think that's
the 23 as well.
Yeah.
Right way through the 23. And I think that's another big point, is that beginning of the season or looking ahead of this season, you would have thought, right, well, your back row is going to be Anna Capeless, Jade Cronkel and Sarah Beckett. Well, only one of those three started the final, and then two youngsters alongside.
Yeah.
So I think that strength and depth is, and within that sort of possibly COVID and the various bits and pieces actually helped to grow that strength. I know it was a sort of focus beginning of the season anyway. But look, let's get into a little bit more of that with Karen, and we'll speak about Karen. We'll speak about her off the back of her, if you know what I mean, off the back of speaking to her. Just one more question. You are one of the most decorated players in women's rugby, and certainly one of the most respected, both on and off the field. Where exactly does that rank, Burf?
I mean, before we came on, I compared to how I felt with winning the World Cup. It's right next to that. I don't know if the heartache of losing twice made it ever so sweeter and pushes it right next to that. But yeah, it is really, really special, and I really liked what Gerard said after the game, how the foundations have been laid for this by, Gary Street and Tony Diprose. And so for us to kick on and do it for all those before as well, it's massive. And we had a huge club meeting on the Thursday with men's, women's, academy, all the staff, Harlequin staff, about the vision and the direction. And the weekend was huge for the club. And in terms of the boys making the semi-finals and in terms of us potentially winning the league. And it just kind of set the tone about how special this club is, but how much more depth and growth we've got to go. And so I think, it means so much because of where we're going, but also where we've been.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, as a kind of neutral, because the boys are there adorning all their Harlequins kit, which they're growing out of. Hint. You have led the way. And you mentioned the likes of Tony Diprose and Gary Street, and I'll pop a Atlanta in there, so John and Michelle as well. And actually, that you have been. I think I saw it, Karen speaking, that it's a club that around the world people look to for leading the way in the women's club game, and so therefore for that, I was absolutely delighted to see you win, because that kind of thing should be rewarded. So on that kind of rugby level and on a very personal level, absolutely delighted for you, genuinely. Gutted about your knee, but delighted. And I mean, if you can get it past World Rugby, I mean, you're on various committees. Well, I play with the crutches because you can move on those.
My mum's here looking after me, bless her. She's like, "Oh, you still move faster than me on those."
Oh, brilliant stuff! Brilliant. No, really good. As you say, we will chat with Karen Findlay in a moment or two. Just continue the chat about Harlequins picking up the trophy at the weekend. But it's an eclectic pod. We don't only have Karen Findlay on the pod, as we say, but Brian O'Driscoll as well. We wanted to get a take on the from outside, as it were, from a men's point of view, looking at the women's game. Yeah, I spoke to Brian last night, and yeah, some really great views from him, some real clarity, some real honesty as well, and some sort of some decent tips as to how other men can support the women's game. So it's an eclectic pod, but when you get the opportunity to have Brian O'Driscoll on the pod, you don't pass it up. So yes, we will speak to Brian later on, but first of all, the Harlequins winning forwards coach, Karen Findlay.
I'm Gary Street, and you're listening to the Women's Rugby Pod.
Karen Findlay, Chief Superintendent Karen Findlay, I should say. And of course, Alliance Premier 15's Harlequins winning coach. Hello, welcome. How good does that sound?
Sounds like fantastic. Sounds like boom. Sounds like va boom, as I would say. It sounds great. Absolutely great.
Yeah, fantastic. Your smile, if you're just listening on the pod and on the YouTube, the smile still hasn't gone since we saw on Sunday. After huge congratulations. How is it up there at Cloud 9? Oh,
I mean, it's been kind of like surreal, really, to be honest, because I think you know, like for coaches, it's you're just spending the whole year, aren't you? You're the whole year hoping and planning and doing the detail, and you just want to give your team every fighting chance to genuinely fulfill its potential. And so when it's a long old season now. The Premiership it's such a fantastic competition. The level and intensity, you never know. There's some really odd results in it. You never know quite how it's going to settle, and that's the beauty of the competition. So to actually get to the end of the season, with a big semi-final at home against Wasps, knowing that they're a very good side, good outfit, as well coached, and come out the other side of that, and then get to final on. I mean, it's just sometimes sports creates magical moments, doesn't it? I mean, fantastic venue, pitch was incredible, and the sun was just glorious. So. If there was ever a stage, a platform for you to just really go that extra mile and just basically land the dream, really, it just was, everything was just perfect. Bar a couple of yellow cards, I've got to say. That definitely caused my wee heart rate to go up a bit.
That's so you to get a couple of yellow cards in there as well on a near perfect day. But look, we want to take you back to Sunday, but also just have as you put it, a wee look back at your time at Harlequins. But just to get us in the mood, I managed to grab someone who had a reasonable afternoon on Sunday for an interview post it. And I just wanted to play this just to take us back to Sunday if we needed a reminder. So. His player of the match.
Shauna Brown, player of the match. Shauna, where are the feelings right now, straight off the back of that final whistle?
Yes, Johnnie.
Is Leanne join us?
Your prediction, yeah, Wednesday?
Absolutely.
Gave me the fuel, that did. Thank you very much.
Leanne Ryan. Yeah.
I'm busy. I think I'm now busy.
Now Shauna Brown's going because I predict his house. Now, give us, Leanne's just sort of summed it up there. Give us it in words, your emotions right now.
It's just all from the heart right now. I couldn't think of a better way to do it. Even just things like the sun's out, it's a good day. It's a good day for rugby. Saracens played fantastically. We just played even better. It's all from the heart and showing that as women we can do it. Like we played, I would suggest, an international standard of rugby, and in fact some of that rugby today was better than some Six Nations games, and it is a great spectacle for the sport, and I can't wait to do it again.
Karen Findlay's last game, how much of a motivation was that today?
It's even in the change rooms, like, I'm going to cry, because she left cards on all of our chairs, like with a little note, and reading it. So I'm going to cry, and I said to the girls, I'm going to cry. They're like, wow, what's wrong? Are you hurt? I was like, no, I'm just emotional. But yeah, it was for Karen, and even seeing her, it is pretty special.
How much of today was Harlequins doing a Saracens on Saracen. And what I mean by that is they get under the skin of teams. They've got under your skin as a team, as a collective, many, many times. Today you refused to take a backward step, and actually it was them getting rattled and what have you. Was that spoken about this week?
Yeah, spoken about for sure, because like it's what they do, and it's part of their skill. And to be fair, it is a skill that they're really good at. So it was about us composing and composing each other. So when there was a few comments going back, it's actually just about turning to our team and say just calm it down, rather than looking at them and shouting across to them like sometimes they do. So it was something we've spoken about, and like you said, it showed on pitch that we came up as our moral compass was in a good place today, shall we say.
It certainly was. Sean Brown, what a year you have had personally, international and club. You're now player of the match in the Alliance 15s final. Congratulations.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you.
There's Sean, straight off the back of the result. I just sort of wanted to ask there, Karen, the smiles and emotions are running high, and absolutely rightly so. Where did that performance come from, Karen? Because 2 years ago, or two finals ago, it was a really tight affair. Last final that came out, obviously Saracen blew you away in the first half, struggled to come back in the second half. But dipped in and out this season. But where did that performance come from? Because I can't remember a performance like that from Harlequins, possibly ever.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think you've got to look back at just how much effort and time and investment it takes to genuinely grow a squad and blend a squad. And I think we've always been a good squad. We've been a good squad prior to this year in terms of the talent that's been coming and the talent that's been developing and just the whole group gelling. Because, I mean, we had a pretty exceptional in year one when there's still a battle going on about, which name are we, else our Bulls? Are we going to be Harlequins? That never really affected the team. The team knew what it was about and the squad knew what it was about. We had a phenomenal start winning that double in year one. And then I think year two, and that was, Gary and I at the time were thinking, we've got to try and get mid-table somewhere this year, but people invested a bit of faith in us, because we genuinely, we care about our players, and that really is the ethos, and we also care about how we do things. And so I think the building blocks and the pillars have been right, and I think they've been in there since day one. And I think year two and year three has just been about gelling and building a bigger squad, and we've had some fantastic players that have come into that, some from overseas to add a real different flavour to things that are commensurate with the kind of flavour of Harlequins, that quintessential just bit of difference and flair. And I think coming out the other side of COVID was just such an awful end. We wanted a crack at this last year, and I think sport rightfully to take a back seat to far more important things in life, and I think sensible decisions were made, which I think at various points in the season the club continued to make those sensible decisions and put our players' welfare right at the heart of it, and not compromising ourselves nor anybody in any opposition. So I think it was just coming, and we were ready to play. We were ready to play Saracens in January, and then some really sensible decisions were made then in terms of protecting our squad and the opposition, etc. And so I think it was coming, Johnny, to be honest. And I just think eventually it gets to a point whereby the squad has developed enough resilience, and that's really important when you're developing a squad, because we've seen it in the young players that have come through this year, a couple of years in the development squad, which at the time they think is really frustrating, and they all want to be playing representative rugby tomorrow, but it just takes time. And I think you just got to, you've got to be as humble in defeat as you are when you win. And I think eventually, you get the rub of the green, and things like that. And then you just know it's your day. And you need a bit of that, no matter how well prepared you are, how well planned. Sometimes you just need the rub of that little bit of the green. And I think so. It's been building. It's been built on some really consistent, solid performances. Where there's cohesion between the forwards and the backs. I think we've had a pack that's always been able to really stand up. And I think the maturity in the back line has come in the technicality and the investment in that, and then just gelling it into an attacking structure again that you can move on every year. And I just think, above all, this final was about genuinely. There was just a mentality of we're never going to give in, and I think that was probably demonstrated its best in the terms of the desperation of when we had to defend against 15 when we'd only 13 ourselves. And at that point, you've just got to find it, haven't you? You've got to find a way. And we speak about things like that. I think we'd rehearsed countless scenarios of what if this will happen or if that will happen again. When you do that every year, eventually you're in a really good place mentally and physically to deal with whatever's thrown at you.
So how much, and both of you pick up on each other. Just wanted to get drill into the noisy rugby bit of Sunday. Yeah. I said to Burf earlier on in the pod that Zoe Howson kicks the kickoff straight out, and
Jock licking her lips. Scrum time.
But that's going to lead to my question: how much of it was Quins being absolutely on their game and doing that Saracens bit that I didn't kind of expand on with Shauna, but when Saracens sense blood, they're like a shark normally, and they absolutely go for the jugular. And I just felt that was there for you on Sunday. And how much was it that, and how much was it Saracens not being quite at the races mentally? I don't think they just weren't in the right place and contributing to what was a fabulous Quins victory.
I mean, I think it's going to be stating the bleeding obvious, but actually, when you get to final, it doesn't really matter what's happened, the entire season. You just got to be focused on the prize. But I think we'd spoken about, how you start and having a fast start and really physically asserting ourselves in the game, but playing our game. And we didn't spend a lot of time this week speaking about Saracens. We spent a lot of time speaking about us and what we're good at and what we can do and what we wanted to bring. And we wanted to do that, and we wanted to do that for ourselves more than anything else. So I think we got out the blocks fast, and we did physically assert ourselves, and we spoke about building a scoreboard so that every time you go in there, the amount of penalty infringements you got to punish a side for doing that to you, because ultimately they're stopping you playing. And we wanted to play at tempo. We wanted to move the ball. We wanted to carry really hard, and we knew where we could carry and where it would hurt them. And we did all those things. And naturally, what came from that was penalties. And we were able to then, get that scoreboard ticking. And once you get it ticking and you keep it over, the pressure just moves, doesn't it? It shifts. And I think we built such a concerted lead. And I think by half time, watching, how are you going to stop our drive and roll? So if you concede and you let us go into that corner, we're going to punish you for it. And we did that really, really well. And things like that take time, cohesion in your drive and roll, the technicality of it, the ability to finish accurately. That's endless hours on the training field. That just isn't just happening in a final. And I think that enabled us to really use that platform, and we really did well there.
Was it spoken about in the week, Burf? Did you sense a shift from the coaches sort of focusing on you guys as Harlequins? Was it spoken about as a leadership group, which you're obviously involved with?
Yeah, and I think we've been going into the semi-finals where we probably started to begin to just focus on us, because I think if you draw so much attention, and like I said to you earlier, Johnnie, like we made sure things were the same this week so that you don't get lost in the occasion, you don't get lost in the opposition, that we kept it very much about us, and we wanted to go and play how we want to play, how we know we can play. And we did that in Wasp. We didn't have the complete performance in Wasp, but we had a lot of it. And then for us to then go away from the Wasp game, quick debrief. Again, we weren't then looking back on what had been done. It's right now what we're going to do this week. And then, that it was all about us. And I think the belief that Karen and Gerard just kept giving us to be like, go and play what we know you can do. Don't go within your shells, have the opportunities, take the opportunities. And that's the belief. And I think another big thing is like throughout the season, we obviously had some narrow losses. We had some really tight wins. And I remember, again, the messaging from the coaches is like, it's not about now. Like, these are good lessons for us. But as long as we win the last one, that's where it really counts. And I think just kind of having that growth throughout the season, and Jock's talked about some of the players coming through, but having that growth spell put us in such good stead going into the semi-final and the final. And it does come just about you as a group, and not about, and like the press release, trying to push some of the players on talking about the opposition, and the response was, it's just about us. It's about the team, and it's about what we're going to go and do. And if we go and do what we can do, it'll be enough. We know it will be.
I'd like to talk to you loads more, but Burf always has a go at me when I start talking in-depth rugby and Norse type stuff.
I don't want to talk about scrums. I'll just put my leg up, literally, and kick back while you chat scrums.
Have it up anyway. Which leads me nicely on. I'd love to have had a heart rate monitor on you on Sunday. I wasn't too far away, and possibly heard a little bit as well. Some really tense moments in there. What heart in the mouth when the young lady on screen went down or hobbled off?
Yeah, because it's sport can create the most magical of memories, can't it? And it clearly has done, but it gives with one hand and it so brutally can take with the other. And I know how hard Rachael works. I mean, it always amazes me. Some of our younger players are, God, how is she so good at passing, or how is she so good at tackling? Because she spends ages on it. She does it weekly, religiously, and that's why she's some of the best at it. And so when I know how much effort she puts into it, and I know how much it means to her. And I know when we've trained this year, when, a lot of our peers that she's played in international rugby have gone off into camps or, and she's been watching that. And then, you've got a really young squadron about it. And she's just absolutely led by example and being a complete ambassador on and off the field. And it's a quiet stuff. It's the same way in coaching. It's a quiet conversation you have with people in the way home from training, or you get them on the field, and and sometimes that's really challenging and it's not a nasty challenge. It's it's a challenge born from frustration. They want to play now, and everything's happening now. And sometimes you just got to have those quiet conversations to say it's your day will come and your time will come. But in the meantime, grasp this incredible bunch of players that you're training with weekly, more so than just on game day. Just sap it up and really learn. And Rachael invested a huge amount of time in that. And to see her, I know, it's like she just got off and then she was the first player to get back on there, minus crutches and things like that. So, things like that absolutely hurt. But, I said it before we played the final. For us to get the final, it didn't take just the 20, the 15 that were left on the field at the final whistle, or the 23 that actually went, inevitably up to Kingsholm. I mean, it was, we played a huge amount of players this year in that squad, and it would be really remiss not to be able to say it took a whole squad to get us across that finish line, including people that were named in that 23 and in that starting 15. So Rachael knows absolutely about how much she's contributed in many, many different ways, other than just the 70 precious minutes on Sunday.
Karen, it leads me nicely on then. When you got into that changing room on Sunday and we're doing la 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 and all that's going on, and the crutches flying around people's heads and what have you. All very well. There you are, you see. Just got the crutches away. One thing, watching your team for 70 minutes win a final, and I say one thing, it's huge. We know that. But I know for you, actually looking around that change room after the game and seeing how much those players have grown as people is more important to you. Just how proud were you when you looked around that changing room on Sunday? No,
I mean, it was really surreal. It was really surreal because the win felt like we had to wait. And we, it felt even longer. That 10 minute period felt even like, God, I thought we're never gonna get to the end of this. So I think coming back, and I was like, there was a couple of people who were like, "You're really quiet," and it wasn't. I was quiet. I was desperately just trying to sit an A process that would manage to win, and secondly, just everything that's that it culminated in that in the past 5 years, and also just some of the people, because some of the people in the room, I mean, Rachael knows that I said, there was 7 players in the room that were there day one when we first started this journey, and even though you think, it wasn't it's ever going to be that gamble joining Harlequins, but you never know, because the club's got massive aspiration. It naturally and deservedly has got expectation that we will perform and we will deliver. And I think as a women's side, we've always done that, just narrowly fell short on 2 occasions. So I think just sitting around the changing room and looking at some of those people, people that I remember, another coach that I used to argue the toss with about Vic Cornborough, saying she will be world class. You've just got to pick her. She's that good. She's going to be that good. Or watching Leanne progress across the last 7, 8 seasons. And people like Flea Fletcher, who I just absolutely have nothing but admiration for, because people like Flea absolutely do their detail. They train, they hold down a full-time job, as well as trying to be the best they can in what is an intensely, really good level of Premiership, no matter which way you look at it. And she's there every week. She plays every game. Like I could probably count on one hand the amount of minutes Fee has missed in about 4 or 5 seasons. She's that big a stalwart and a legend and contribution. So when you look around that change room, and you see like Abby, who came from like BM, set up north, came to a big London club, has absolutely grown, I think, as an individual, and definitely, at the end of it, she's gone away with husband. She's a trophy. So Abby's certainly done all right. And just seeing how what's changed in their lives, as well as just how they've developed as rugby players, because that for me is a big thing. And there's a big shout out at the leadership group, because we sat down with the leadership group this year, and rugby's amazing for saying, right, we're going to mix so-and-so captain and we're going to mix so-and-so this leadership group, and it doesn't actually invest in them. And I think that's what's been really fascinating for me. And there's just a couple of things that we'll still get around to doing it, because I promised I would do it. And whereby my world, in terms of my day job, it's been really good to discuss with them the whole concept of leadership and making decisions, and when decisions count, and the whole process of how you make that decision, and more importantly, how you lead and how you lead better. So I think that's been something I've really enjoyed this year with that group in particular, because they've wanted to learn. They wanted to challenge themselves to be better at leading. Well,
typically, Burf, that I've asked Karen about her feelings, and she's literally spoken about virtually the entirety of the squad except herself. So it's so very, very you. Burf, your chance to just give everyone out there just a snapshot in a minute or so of just what this lady's contributed to Harlequins Rugby Club and the women's team.
I'm not sure I can do it in a minute, Johnny. Yeah, look, I think Jock's record kind of on pitch speaks for itself. The pillar that she's been the entire foundation of Harlequins, getting up and running, having the vision, pushing the board, all of that stuff that people just don't think or hear about. And they just think, she's on the pitch and dealing with scrum and line out and mauls and breakdown. It's so much more than that. And I know Jock spoke about kind of the small conversations, and that's something that Jock will give up. The 1 minute of time that she has to herself, she'll give it away. And I mean, for those of you who don't know, she pretty much runs London. So she doesn't really ever have that much time for herself or even for family life, because she's so dedicated and has this unbelievable commitment to people and to the club, and will give everything. And I think that's something that you just can't instill in someone unless they genuinely care and they want to be there and they want to be a part of it. And I think, the way that she's led, I've gripped onto the way that she has been and used that as my own leadership, and learned so much from the work that she's done with us as a leadership group. But the time and effort and sacrifice, it's worth so much. And I know personally as an individual how much she will be sorely missed, but across the entire team, just the legend that she genuinely is, and the amount you contributed to get this club where it is. And, we always talk about, oh, well, they're going to raise the bar. Everyone's going to try and follow Harlequins because Sarries have done this, or what's doing that. Well, Quins are the first to this. Like, the lady in front of us is why we're the first. She's the one who's pushing the buttons and saying, what about this? What about that? Well, we've got to keep raising the bar. We can't allow that. What about this? And it's all from a position where she's been there as a player international. She's been there as a coach internationally, domestically. She's been there. She understands it so deeply that, you can't put it into words really. And I've spoke for more than a minute, but aside from rugby, like, the impact she has on people and in their life is huge. I mean, the likes of, like, you talk about someone like Flea Fletcher, she plays for Karen, because of the impact and the depth that she has on her as an individual. And we've said this from when we were in that circle in the changing room, is Karen will forever be a Quinn and will forever wear quarters and always be welcome to be a part of that Quins family forevermore, because, she means a hell of a lot to all of us.
Wow. There we are. Yes, slightly over a minute. The other,
If I did it when I was on my crutches, probably done it in 30 seconds.
yeah, exactly. Much quicker. But the other thing is, when Karen comes asking, not many people are going to argue. I think that's also something I've learned being around Karen. There's that steer.
Let's analyse that. She's a copper. She's not going to turn up without evidence, facts, detail, and you just can't argue that. So any comeback you got is like, oh, I've got an answer for that and for that.
Yeah. And there's that smile just always hidden behind it as well. Karen, just I don't want to take you from your family, because actually now's the time when you're back at home now from another busy day. We won't take too much of your time. I just wanted to give you a chance to give us some of your favourite memories. Obviously, Sunday is up there, and we probably cover that one off. Just your favourite moments at Harlequins.
Oh, I mean, certainly. Year one, I'm working, just working through things with Guy. We go back a long way. Spoke at his wedding. People just didn't realise, and they probably thought it was, yin and yang mix. But just that first year was just incredible. I think, against all odds, and you just genuinely didn't know where the journey was going to take us. So that was incredibly special. The big game at Twickenham, incredible, playing there and playing Leinster, being, that was just a complete and utter first. Putting that on with the women, which again makes everybody else stop and say, well, if Harlequins are doing it, it's not just about us, it's about leading the way but dragging everybody else with us and pushing through that door. So that was really, really special. But even the first home game at the Stoop was absolutely incredible. The work at the likes of Tony Diprose, Michelle in Atlanta, and particularly Atlanta, in the whole commercialisation and leading from the front, and seeing equitable marketing images on the posters, on the billboards, on the bus stop, and seeing our players' faces up there, female rugby athletes in Harlequins quarters. People that have been in women's rugby for a long, long time. That absolutely makes you stop. Because those people have just they've been in it for the long haul, and it's because they've cared about it. So when you see things like that, for maybe some of the clubs that are so used to commercialisation on a bigger, far more historic scale, that was just amazing. We still speak about that, and also just seeing little girls waving Harlequins flags when we did the first Pride match at the Stoop. That was equally incredibly special, and just seeing how much sportsmen from other disciplines like women's football, women's rowing, women's hockey were there. Everybody got behind some of that, and just that huge big generation of why we should be celebrating women's sport, because we want to get to a point where we're not speaking about women's sport, that we're just speaking about rugby, and people are watching as much as they're supporting women's football, who certainly are leading the way in terms of that. But the beauty of final of the quality that you saw on Sunday is that you just want to watch rugby. You want to be speaking about each other. So I think some of that memories are just forever more. But it's also it's also daft little things. It's like, Shauna's interview just showed how much we hear post game, but the fact that we took somebody that was pretty decent at throwing a discus at the Commonwealth Games, and we turned on an international prop of genuine to see our company vision in the final, and go on to play for our company and things like that, alongside Vic Cornborough, who equally as special, in terms of an athlete and things, and just watch the whole of that pack come together in gel and provide a platform to the back line that we have, which I now think is, it's just electric, and play off of that. You just can't box some of that specialness, Johnnie. There's so many things, and it's just like I say, the lifting the trophy, of course it's a memorable occasion, an incredible occasion, and very special, but it's just like the build of the tiers of that cake. It's just like the bit that goes on the top. There's so many things, and just watching people this year, the fact that tragically we lose Rachael in the final, but Izzy Mayhew came on and was, you suddenly say, wow, 2 years of building in Izzy to be really that confident and that good, having had the ability to train with fantastic players around about her this year. Same with Katie Mew, Lauren Brooks, people that have come through the development squad, and I just think once we get back to normal and our centre excellence is working, with the likes of pipeline, Rachael can send in their direction. I mean, it's a sustainable success that's there, and that's got to be the vision.
What's next, Karen? I mean, you'll obviously carry on running London single-handedly.
Yeah,
Good job.
I mean, today I was just saying I was up in Barton and Dagenham, and not kicking a football about, which felt really odd, I've got to say. But just seeing kids and making a difference of that, and there's things I want to do in my job that I'd really like to influence sport and get a lot more women into the service and improve the representation. So really aligning some of the stuff I do with rugby and my job and getting them working hand in hand together, because it's a phenomenal career the Metropolitan Police Service offers to people, and improving our representation and our genuine connection with communities out in London is really important to me. So I think they go hand in hand. But I think in terms of rugby, I think sometimes you just need to recharge your batteries a wee bit, and you need to take a little bit of quiet moment to think of what you've achieved and things, because it's been big rugby clubs. Richmond was a fantastic setup, and I love coaching Richmond. I've had the fortune enjoying the same success at Harlequins, and I just want to see where the next thing is that I like building things, and I like adding value, and I like really seeing things come to fruition. So I'm just ready for a hard job right now. I want to just like really enjoy and maybe add value where I can. And if that's just teaching a young bunch of kids to scrimmage properly, fantastic. And just see how the girls get on, see what the next is, because they're going to be before they know it, it's going to be back.
I want to get you on the girls rugby club camps.
Yes, like just different things that I can do it without necessarily, having to plan it into an entire week. Maybe changing a uniform or a suit into a tracksuit, between London Waterloo and Guildford, stuff like that. But I think ultimately, I think my real heart is in genuinely really driving diversity and inclusion, and that's really important to me. Not because it's just, I think some people use them as just words. It's like a buzzword, but for me, it's about deeds, and I think there's still a lot of progress can be made in that to make sure that our rugby's in a really good place, and female athletes in particular are really well supported, and that there's a genuine pathway for women's coaching to go through that is open and transparent, and there's a real access to equality opportunity. Stuff like that is really, really important to me.
Oh, well, you leave a huge hole. I don't think I need to tell you that. I hope that the game doesn't lose you completely. Just too much caliber there as a coach and as a human being for us to let you go fully. But yeah, from myself and the game itself, I'm sure Rachael will just say a quick goodbye as well. But yeah, thank you for absolutely everything you've done. You've been a major architect of the shining, arguably the best club side in women's rugby in the world, and you've been a huge part of that over the last 5 years and past that. So thank you very, very much for your service, and it was so delightful to see you lift the trophy on Sunday. It was a real pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Johnnie.
Cheers, Jockey.
See you later, Rachie.
No more dilly-dally.
No more dilly-dallying. Don't be dilly-dallying.
No more dilly-dallying. Karen, thank you so much. Go to enjoy TNT. Oh, fabulous. You said you were going to make her cry.
Oh, I'm not sure if I should going to make her cry. I said she probably will cry.
Yeah, you're right. And that's frivolous and silly when a lady that's given that much impact to the women's club game in this country. And I don't think there's any argument in that statement.
No, absolutely not. Like genuinely across so many different teams, countries, individuals that she's coached and recruited and developed under 20s. We talked about the development squad, and she really has made a huge impact. And yeah, look, I suspect she'll be involved in those teams that are knocking to be a part of the Allianz Premier 15. I mean, who wouldn't want to go after with all of her experience and knowledge within the game and expertise? I don't think it's going to be long before we see Jock back involved at the top flight game.
Oh, nice. Okay. And just on a, I mean, you've spoken about it a little bit, but just give us her three best attributes.
Oh, detailed. And if she don't know, she'll go away and she'll sort it. Compassion. And I mean, there's so many, Johnnie. I want to say humour, because she has this brilliant humour about her that just can light up the room. or the circle, or the cold, minging muddy nights. She has a way with words.
Yeah, it's just personability, and as you said earlier, just that smile and that little crack of a joke or that little Scottishism is always, it's never far away, and it just warms the cockles, doesn't it? She's one of those people you just want to hug and sit by the fire and chat rugby with. Well, I do anyway. But no, it was fabulous to have her on, and great to see you two interact after what was a momentous occasion, a historic occasion on Sunday.
I'm Emily Scarrett, and you are listening to the Women's Rugby Pod.
Must, of course, keep you up to date with all the news that's going on around the world of women's rugby. It's just coming thick and fast, Burf, isn't it? This time, say a year ago, in global pandemic, but when we started the pod, there was never this kind of news and chatter around. We've got news internationally coming up later on the pod, but at the moment, let's get you up to date with what's going on in and around the UK and Europe. Got some results from France. You want to cover those off, Burf? You with your...
Oh, I don't want to step on your toes because your French is so good.
I don't want to step on your knee. So,
I'd appreciate you doing that.
Elite France 1, Blagnac 13, Montpellier 8, Lens beat Stade Rennais 21-12, ASM Rougmenat beat Bordeaux 34-11. It was a draw between Toulouse and AS Bayonnais, 12-all. Some really big results, and Toulouse and Montpellier, those draws and that loss from Montpellier is a surprising one. The semi-finals are on the 12th of June, which see ASM Rougmenat take on Montpellier and Blagnac host Toulouse. Big local derby, that one, and a really big finish to the Elite One season coming up.
And some Irish news, Connacht Rugby have launched a women's under-20 rugby initiative to bridge that gap between youth and senior rugby. It's going to consist of 5 weeks of games at under 21 level. We're not quite sure when that is, but we will bring the news to you when we know.
Absolutely. HPC Invitational Sevens tournament this weekend. GB and Ireland trying to get some practice in. So those two are taking on each other in Dublin. And a series of games taking place, as I say, at the weekend.
And also the Women's Championship, formerly known as the Grand Prix, is taking place in Lisbon this weekend with 9 teams taking part: Scotland, Portugal, Spain, Romania, Russia, Poland, Wales, Germany and Belgium.
Yeah, it all concludes sort of late Sunday afternoon. If you fancy checking that out, that's on European Rugby on their social channels. You can pick that one up. Closer to home, Bath have jumped on the bandwagon, haven't they? Alongside those other Premiership clubs. We've heard from Newcastle some time ago now. London Irish of late as well. I'm missing someone else. Am I? No, London Irish. Yeah. Newcastle, that's it. They started the process of creating a women's team. Bath have. So yeah, really good for the region down there for women's rugby, and yes, all of those vying for a place would be season after next, wouldn't it, when the tender goes back out again.
And BBC have announced they're going to show the Women's Six Nation as the broadcaster rights have been sold for the first time as a single package. Hopefully should be a big for attraction for sponsors opportunities. I mean, that is brilliant news, isn't it, Johnnie?
It's huge. We spoke to Sue Day about it, didn't we, when we had Daisy on the pod? And it's those kind of things. If you want to do the men's, you've got to do the women's and the under 20s in this instance as well. But 100%. That's the way forward. It's not to say that it should be broadcast or the tournament should be the same. But do you know what? That's it's a huge step forward, and we've seen of late, haven't we, with the autumn internationals and the Women's Six Nations. There is the appetite there. We've known it for a time, haven't we? But it is there. So that's fabulous news. Now on the women's rugby pod, we don't have a huge amount of men. Some coaches, obviously. We've had Bill. Sir Bill to you, so you forget those bits, Burf. But Brian O'Driscoll, a man who needs no introduction whatsoever, the former Ireland captain, Lions captain as well. Six Nations winner, Grand Slam winner. Just wanted to get his view on the women's game. He was quite visual during the Women's Six Nations and got a young daughter as well. So I got in touch with Brian, who I haven't seen for quite a few years. One of the last times was in Ferg Burger in Queenstown. I just dropped that one for you to pick up, Burf. I won't tell you what he ordered. But no, really, really good to catch up with Bod and get his views about the women's game. Brian, a very, very warm welcome to the WRP. Thank you so much for coming on. And a nice day on the golf course we've had today.
Yeah, Bill, this is not usual attire. You can't really see it, but I literally played 18 holes at 4 o'clock, and I'm raced across the other side of the city because this was the most important thing in my diary today.
Honestly, there you are. Yeah, today. Absolutely. Great stuff. Did you manage to catch any of the Alliance Premier 15 at the weekend?
I have it recorded. I haven't actually caught up on it. Obviously, I know the result and
it's great.
Girls and it was a great performance. I know BT were showing it, but I haven't managed to get there yet. But it is on my plus, so I'll definitely get a look of it over the course of the week.
Yeah, no, it's a hell of a way to finish up the season. Obviously, Burf lifting the trophy on a crutches and what have you. But we been trying a couple of weeks to get you on because I think it's fascinating. Obviously, I'm a man and I sit in the women's game and have done for a long time and beating the drum. But it's always fascinating for me to see, from a men's point of view, how the women's game is seen and perceived from the outside. Because when you're in the middle of the woods, sometimes you can't see the wood for the trees, can you? So I just wanted to start. What's your relationship with the women's game?
Good question. What's my relationship? I guess I've probably found myself in the last year being more of a promoter of it, realizing the necessity to do so. I suppose for me, it started really about promoting women's sport in general. We had a program called 20 by 20 in Ireland, where it was about 20% more visibility, 20% more attendance, 20% more participation in women's sport by 2020. So, I think if you look at media coverage in general over the course of the last, certainly since I've been a professional in my time, we were kind of blinded to the reality that women had to do something really exceptional to get into the newspaper or for it to be reported on the news. Whereas you could have lower league football being written up in the men's game, which just doesn't seem right. So I guess I have a daughter, and the reality that that there aren't equal rights given to men and women, or girls and boys, has dawned on me. And so if I can lend a voice towards promoting women's sport, I think, it's the onus is on men. It's not just on women. The onus is on men, and the men of that have daughters, but men that have sons as well, that also have to teach that equality is the way of the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I say to my boy who your favourite players, and they would certainly Emily Scarrett and Sarah Hunter. Don't tell Burf, she's not on the list, but but no, they would, they would list those kind of people, and I couldn't agree with you more. So how much women's rugby do you watch? You watch a bit of the Six Nations, Autumn Internationals, World Cups, that kind of stuff. What excites you about watching the women's game?
I've started watching more, I think, and maybe I've been part of the problem. Maybe I've been guilty of not paying as much attention and not promoting it as much as I should have. I think sometimes when you're playing, you're so self-absorbed and you're so into your own sport that there's no time to be giving or trying to promote elsewhere. It's quite a unique thing what the likes of Justin Rose and Andy Murray have done and been big promoters of the women's game in their respective sports. You don't really see it an awful lot in rugby, or certainly haven't done. And maybe it takes for people to take a step away from the game and have an appreciation for what it's given them, but also the reality that it needs to be equal opportunities. And it's it's obviously going to be a long way before we get to equal opportunities in women's rugby versus men's, because of the game being professional, because of funding and so on. But you have to be aspirational to get there at one point, and it's about building blocks. And right now, the pandemic couldn't have come at a worse time from a funding point of view in Ireland. But yet, I think there's an awful lot of hype and an awful lot of conversation around the women's game, and that's how you get the snowball of positivity working. And get it in front in people's sitting rooms, get them an opportunity to see where the standard is, and maybe it's not where you hope it will be in a year or 2 years time, but you got to start somewhere. So I think we've begun to make good positive changes here in Ireland, but an awful lot still to do.
So when you were playing with Leinster or Ireland, was there any crossover at all? Because now with the likes of Harlequins, you look at Burf and whatever, they're down at Surrey Sports Park, and there is quite a lot of crossover, and other Premiership clubs would be the same, using the shared sort of facilities. Is that ever the case in your day, or is it now?
Never. I don't even think now, not really. Occasionally the high performance centre where all age grades are training at the moment, the senior team, the 20s, underage, the women's. So I don't know whether there's a bit of cross pollination there with regard to being there at the same time, but with regard to working with one another, I haven't heard anything in that regard, and it wouldn't have been the case with us when we were playing when I was playing with Leinster, playing with Ireland, 7 or 8 years ago since I've retired. So it does feel as though things have moved on drastically, but I don't know if we're there yet either. And the issue in Ireland is that the lack of games. A number of the internationals that have played, that are playing for Ireland here, have moved over to the UK to play in Premier 15s to get more quality game time, to get a better standard, and to challenge themselves, because the club game has been, I wouldn't say it's been forgotten here, but it probably hasn't been given the time and effort and focus that it has that has been needed to promote the game from grassroots level. And that's the lifeblood of all sports, and all the more that it feels as though we missed a trick a few years ago, and we won the Grand Slam. This is going back 8-9 years ago, beat New Zealand in a World Cup, the women, the first ones to do it. But yet we didn't react to that, and we didn't promote it as we should have, considering the publicity got around that time. So it feels like we're back to small building blocks, but eventually getting there again.
And is that the answer in Ireland, and therefore you could sort of map that across to other countries as well, is to get that solid platform at club level?
I think that's a great starting point. I think the sevens is a really interesting one as well. There's been some finance put into the sevens program, and it's been very effective. We've seen good crossover between sevens and 15s in both the men's and women's now in recent years. So it's just a matter of whether they can coexist. And again, so much of it comes down to funding and resources. And unfortunately, at the moment, the first thing to go is either sevens or women's when there's the struggles with finances. But I think there's a big responsibility on corporates as well about not just promoting rugby, but promoting women's sport and sponsoring as many women's events as they do sponsor men's. And until then, you won't get cohesion, you won't get equality, and how can we expect to ever get to the point with in I don't know how many years of an equal playing field? The reality is we need all factions of society to work together to kind of help promote from within.
Because it's such an embryonic state at the moment, the women's game, and it has that ability to start really, really well and with really solid foundations and not get fragmented, which I think sort of the men's game sort of suffers from a little bit. But you're absolutely right, that bravery to actually get involved and say, well, it's just the right thing to do. 90 odd companies that I've been contacting to get involved with this podcast. It's bonkers the wall you get your head smashed against.
Yeah. And the reality is at the moment, and I think, I don't think the women want to be plumosed or patronized in, there was a good effort. They want to be critiqued, and they want to be told when they've done well, but they also want to be told, constructive criticism, because with bigger promotion comes, some things that aren't as easy to aren't as palatable, but you have to be able to learn to deal with them as well if you want it to be part of the growth of the sport. So, my experience of understanding them, they want, yes, of course, they want to be patted on the back for great performances, but they do want to be pulled up on where their improvement needs to come from. And we saw in the Six Nations stark differences between the performance against Wales and then the reality check against France, and then maybe a bit of a mixed bag against Italy. Lots of handling errors, but ultimately a victory. And I guess the difference maybe between the men's and women's games is the differential in squads between the best players and the less effective players is vast.
Yes.
And that only comes from increased participation, and that only comes from media coverage, and that only comes from everyone trying to do their bit. Administrators coming on board, as I say, sponsors coming on board, TV companies coming on board to showcase the games more. All of these things will all add up to a better end product.
Absolutely. I mean, you through our conversation, just one final one from me, and you kind of touched on a few areas, but I just wanted to get sort of a rounded point. As you say, I don't think that the women particularly want well done, girls. That was a really good performance, as you say. But if Harlequins are playing at the weekend, I mean, I saw on my Twitter feed, and I don't look at it very often, but the girls saying, "Oh, go well, Quins," and your bid to get a playoff place and what have you. There isn't a huge amount of that back that I particularly see, and you kind of alluded to it earlier. What can current players, former players, obviously in that bracket yourself, do constructively in the right way to support the women's game? Because we're all about deeds on this podcast, Bod, rather than words, you see.
Yeah, I think it's about I think every time you think about promoting something from a men's point of view, try and consider, even though if it isn't an initial or an immediate reaction, try and consider promoting something. Or when you're flicking through something, rather than just passing over some sport, make a comment or add value to a conversation. Those small little things you might seem insignificant, but they actually have a difference. And if you can get conversation going around, a great try. I remember one of the French centres, through this, audacious offload, and I saw it on Twitter and then clipped it up, and then if Sonny Bill does that, he gets huge kudos. Yeah. So for me, that's about trying to promote the best of what you see. And okay, you're not going to, in all games, you're not going to have a multitude of magic moments, but when you do have those high quality moments, I think it's important for us to promote them and to showcase them and show what the caliber of players are capable of. And I think from a player point of view, I don't want to put pressure on the current crop because that's not my place to do it. But as an ex-player or as someone that is passionate about seeing women's sport elevated and hugely because of my daughter as well, I think if I can start conversations with people, well, I need others to join me, but hopefully that will all add towards creating a greater excitement around it. And you can't force it. People will do what they want to do, but it would be great if people were in a position to be able to just push the boat out a little bit and get on board with something that maybe they initially don't have massive interest in, but until you actually invest and get involved, you don't know what you might get out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you see that thing down in South America? The football teams, the women's side of the club had half the badge, and the men's side of the club had the other half of the badge, and they sold it in the shop, and all the punters were going, well, where's the rest of the badge? Well, the women have got the other half badge because we're the same. And participation has gone through the roof, and they've now got broadcast deals. I mean, that's an extreme way of doing it. I'm not sure the Prem clubs and whatever are going to go that far. But
those sort of things are great. I think as well, about promoting our superstars. We've got a couple of great young young players coming through. We've got a 19 or 20-year-old Bevan Parsons, who's a really exciting athlete. So Bevan Parsons for me is like, Jess Breach, except she's probably raw. She's less refined at the moment. But you've got to try and promote, the most exciting players, because in every sport, people will come and you'll get bums on seats just to watch a spectacular athlete perform. And I think when you see that excitement, well, you've got to help build a team around that individual and facilitate them to produce their best. And that's where you'll get, her seen as hero and as a role model to young girls coming through, and that's how you enhance numbers. That's how you get better. That's how you get increased participation. So it's all these small little things adding up.
Yeah, all the little visibility bits, and that seamlessly like a ski sock leads me to, as I say, hopefully our chat and you being involved in the pod tonight just raised that visibility a tiny bit, not for the women's game, but the pod as well. So thank you very, very much. Huge, thanks from Burf and I for coming on tonight and racing back from your double bogey on the last couple.
I was obviously thinking what I was going to be saying. I wasn't thinking about.
Well, that's it. That tough Paxman-like question about your relationship with women's rugby to start. Mate, I look forward to seeing your daughter on the field and a slashing sidestep and an outside break like her old man. And it's really good to catch up. It's great to see you.
Cheers. Great to chat. Cheers, Johnnie.
I'm Jess Breach, and you're listening to the Women's Rugby Pod.
Great to have Bod on the pod and its allies and friends like that. That sadly the women's game needs, but someone with his kind of profile, just some useful tips there. Just you're sitting there scrolling through social media. It doesn't take very long. Just share, comment on women's rugby. It's a responsibility that they got all former and current members players have.
Yeah, no, I think it's really important that we do have more of that happening, and not just to kind of talk about, oh, this is what's happening, or wasn't that a great try by Jess Beach? But what it does, if Brian O'Driscoll thinks that girls rugby's good or women's rugby's good, then the young lad next to him go, oh, all right then. Well, if he thinks it's good, then I will. And you what you're doing is you're changing the perception for the future. So these young boys that who are on social media and young girls, they look through and they're like, oh, well, if they think it's cool and they like it, then it is good. And then, we look in however many years' time where we're trying to get to with normalising women and girls in rugby. That's why we need that, not just to talk about, but actually to help normalise it and then to help grow it. So, I would follow Brian O'Driscoll's advice any day. So hopefully, some of the male players will pick up on that and run with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they younger generation, less and less are they sitting down to watch a full game. Yeah, they'll watch the England game and they love their rugby and play lots of it, but it's being consumed through those kind of channels. So, here's a rallying cry. You play for Gloucester, Harbury, whatever. Start retweeting some stuff that Mo Hunt does. If you play for Bristol, and Bristol, to be fair, pretty good at it, but start tweeting some stuff that Amber Reid does. Saracens, all the rest of it. Get the chatter going, as you say, Burf. Let's normalise it. Now, to bring up to date with news further afield than the UK and Europe, and news from around the oval world, and some Sevens World Cup details, Burf.
Yeah, so the Sevens Rugby World Cup details have been confirmed. The 2022 Rugby World Cup Sevens will be the 8th edition of the Rugby World Cup Sevens organised by World Rugby. The 2022 tournament, which again comprises of 24 men's teams and 16 women's teams, will be played over 3 days in one venue in September. It will take place in Cape Town. Beautiful place, Cape Town. Cape Town Stadium, South Africa, between the 9th and the 11th of September 2022. And it's the first ever Rugby World Cup Sevens.
In Africa.
Yeah, how impressive.
It's brilliant. And that will be lively and colourful. And as you say, Cape Town, what?
Oh,
iconic city. Well, look, get the knee better and get yourself out of there, Burf, yeah?
For spectating only.
very good on the sides, banging your crutches together. I saw you. Some welcome news out of Canada. Sally Dennis has become the first female chair of Rugby Canada Board of Directors. So there's not been some amazing news coming out of Canada of late. So that is some really, really positive stuff for the women's game over the other side of the pond.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And over in Australia, Queensland Rugby League, I know this is Rugby Union mainly pod, but really significant news that they have increased the investment into the elite women's game, moving closer to equal remuneration for the women.
Yeah,
and that's worrying because then they're going to steal our union players potentially.
Yeah, good point. Hadn't thought about that. Had not thought about that. Yeah.
Right. You need other sports to be putting pressure on it, don't you? Because then it makes you realise that you need to do more.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it happened, didn't it? Late 90s. A few league players in the men's game coming over to uni and then flip-flopping back and what have you, brought a lot of professionalism, what have you. So, yes, but look, it's generally very good news. Still in Australia, 6 teams taking part in the Bill Corp Super W League with Alara Thomas, isn't it? Reds, Waratahs, Brumbies, Rebels, Western Force and the Presidents 15. All to be broadcast live on Stan Sports, 2 pools, culminating in a finals day on July 3rd.
God, there's a lot going on in Queensland at the moment. Libby Nakaville, I think that's how you say her name, has been appointed Vice President of Queensland Rugby Union. She's the first woman to hold the role in the organisation in 139-year history.
Yeah, you see Canada, Queensland. Yeah. Like we've spoken to Bird and Jill Burns and stuff on the pod here. You're in the room. Yeah, the conversation can't be ignored, and it sounds like a tiny step, but it's massive. It really, really is. Over in Iran, incredible numbers coming out of Iran. You remember we had Nahid Bahramajadi on the pod some time ago now, but they're registering an increase of athletes playing the game up by 20% from 10,000 to 12,000. Of that 12,000, 7,000 of those are women. That's the future right there, ladies and gentlemen. Black and white for you. Black
Absolutely.
And white.
And I mean, if the like, let's just put that into some context as well. Iran is not an easy place for rugby to be played yet. The increase is there and the majority of them are women. But anyway, moving on to Zimbabwe, who took on Zambia yesterday. It wasn't a test match, but Zambia won 31-22.
Indeed, they did. Staying in Africa, some results from the Women's League there. DHL Western Province and Borders ladies pulling clear at the top of that Premier Division. The scores from the 22nd of May, Border 48, Seychelles Sharks unable to score. DHL Western Province put 72 points on the Eastern Province Queens. They only managed to chalk up 19 points. The Boland Dames 23, the Blue Bulls Women's 19. On the 29th of May, a couple of weeks to bring up to date here with the Women's Rugby Pod live last week. So the 29th of May, the scores were DHL WP 10, Seychelles Sharks 0, Border Ladies 35, Boland Dames 14, Blue Bulls 43, EP Queens 17. So at the top of the table clash between Borders Ladies and the DHL Western Province in Cape Town this weekend. Again, being streamed. It's all out there. It's got proper productions on it, proper commentators. Head to @WomenBox, BOKS, for all the streaming details if you'd like to watch that over the weekend.
And heading over to the Blackburn Sevens, who beat Australia Sevens team in a 5-1 in the Trans-Tasman Sevens competition. I mean, that's a pretty convincing win for the Blackburn sisters. I'm sure Australia will be wanting to get a few wins over them the next time round.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously Tokyo and the Olympics is looming large now. So that's, how much of a psychological filler that is for the Black Ferns, we will see. Last bit of news to bring up to date with over the pond, the XV Foundation. Kristen Summer and Alicia Washington funding the USA Women's 15s program and empowering women in sport. You can become a monthly donor or a one-time donor. So I urge you, if you have got anything spare knocking around, and this is funding an international team. After all that good news, we end with a story like that. But look, if you can spare anything, then visit at XV Foundation for more information. That is about it, Burf. Hey, emotional is all in there. Captain fantastic. Well, look, let's hope you do another podcast when you're top of the tree, the championship winning captain. But did you enjoy that, reminiscing? And you said at the beginning of the pod, it was one of the first times you'd actually probably dissected it and looked back at it.
Really enjoyed going back over it, especially, having that chat with Karen Findlay and hearing Shauna and Leanne on the back of it. It was really nice to go over it, and hopefully, everybody else has appreciated it as well.
Yeah, hopefully so. Look, we're going to come at you again one more time this season next week. But to remind you, if those who weren't lucky enough to come on our live pod, we now got stash. Everybody loves a bit of stash. Full range there. Plenty of bits and pieces. Got the old snoods, jackets, gilets, training vest, leggings, shorts. Men's and women's kids on there as well. So, if you fancy walking around proudly adorning some WRP stash, then all you need to do is visit www.hallbro.com/WRP. hallbro.com/WRP. And if you haven't already, give us 84 stars, give a little rating, even if you just say great show, just 2 words. It makes a massive, massive difference this end. It really does, for all the algorithms and all the stuff that I've got no idea about, but apparently it makes a huge amount of difference. So please do that. And that's where, come on, penultimate time.
At Pod Women's Rugby, both Twitter, Instagram, go check us out, be a part of it, Facebook as well. And look, we want to bring you the best show. So let us know what you want to hear, what you've enjoyed. And we can plan to keep bringing that to you. But please go and follow us. Please go and rate us, subscribe, and give us some feedback.
Huge thank you to Brian O'Driscoll, Bod, God, whatever you want to call him. No, it's really good to see my slightly thinner doppelganger on the pod. Huge thank you to Karen Findlay. Yeah, really great to speak to her. And we won't go over it again, but what a servant to the women's game she has been. We wish her all the best for her future endeavours. Huge thanks as ever to Sean, to Emerson, to Harry, to Tom, to Rugby Nut, and to Jenny, to you, Burf.
To you, Johnnie.
Just shake. Well, you just cracking on with the Prosecco again now, is it? Just Prosecco all day, every day, is it? The champions. Oh, an energy shake. Yeah, what's in there though?
Exactly. Actually, it's quite sealed, so I can't even get away with making out it's not.
Oh, great stuff. Well, look, you deserve everything that's coming your way at the moment. I thought you led your side superbly well, whether it was on the field the last couple of weeks or from the bench. And as I said earlier, absolutely delighted for you. And we will see you in a week's time.
Until next time.